Checking out a weekly segment that I do with my good friend 30 and Still Gaming, and this is the Reforge Recap. If we don't have a big, huge topic to cover, we recap all the topics of the week. And a lot happened this week, from Star Wars Outlaws release date sort of being confused, and then there was the Nintendo Switch 2. Rumors are continuing to heat up, and just looking at what Nintendo might do this year. There was also more specs and more info that came out about the PlayStation 5 Pro. The PS5 Pro might be a thing this year. And then just this morning, I did my top 25 most anticipated games of the year, which was a hard list to make, because the more I looked at 2024, the more I said, this year is fuller than I thought. I'm going to end the previous stream and redirect people over. So if you want to check out that stream, be sure to check that one out. The top 25 games. It's just my top 25. We'll hear what are some of the games Mike's really looking forward to this year, because goodness gracious, it's a full year. Good to see you, Mike. Thanks for being here.
Good to be seen. Good to see you.
And we already kind of looked forward into the year and talked about some of the games that we're looking forward to, but still more has come out, more lists. The more I look at it, I was thinking that 2024 would be a little bit thinner. But before we get to that, I kind of wanted to start with, I kicked off the week, and we cover a lot of different things on the channel. We try to bounce around, and I know you do the same. And we kicked off this week, and I was just kind of talking about what I wanted specifically from Nintendo, and we really got stuck on the Nintendo Switch 2. Maybe just kind of talk about that, like with the Nintendo Switch 2 being a potential reality, and what you would want to see from that. And then, are there any Nintendo games you're really looking forward to? Where are you with Nintendo as a brand as well? Like, do you got a Switch in the house? How often is it played, if it is there? And what would you want from a new console?
So yeah, this is a pretty tough subject for me, because I have a Switch, but I don't play the Switch. It's my son's Switch, so it's like his system. I play with him when we play like Mario Kart, or if I play Super Mario Brothers Deluxe, whatever it is, and or he makes a board in Mario Maker, and then tries to basically troll me as we're playing the game to try to make it as hard as possible for me to get through, and watch me get frustrated, because he knows I get frustrated with like platformers like that. So it's like a nice little fun game for him to play with me, or I guess against me. Make the hard board, watch Dad struggle. So as far as the Switch goes, the reason I played the Switch, I played a lot of Ultimate Alliance 3. I literally sold my wife when my son was younger. I was like, we can get a Switch for him, and it's a better system for him to play, because I really wanted Ultimate Alliance 3, because I'm a big Ultimate Alliance fan, right? So you have to sell it like that. So I like the Switch. I think it's a really cool system. When it first came out, I gave it crap because of the small controllers. But if you get the Pro controller, or if you get the other accessory where you can take the little Joy-Cons and put them in, it feels better for adults with large hands that you can't, you're like doing the crab, like this when you're doing the little...
Oh yeah.
I hate that. So but for the most part, what I'm looking forward to the Switch is, if they do make it a handheld, make the controllers just a little bit bigger, right? Instead of those small little Joy-Cons that they have. As far as also if it we've heard so many things about it, right? It's going to be as powerful as this gen system, or I'm sorry, the last gen systems, right, of Xbox and PlayStation. They're like bring it up to par with them or whatnot. We heard that it was going to be a handheld device, that it docks into a thing, and it becomes more powerful that way. Like, we've heard a bunch of different things. I just want Nintendo. I'm not expecting anything from Nintendo, honestly, because Nintendo does what Nintendo does, right? They always everyone goes left, they go right, and they come out with this like ridiculous thing. Like when the Wii U came out, we're like, what is that? And then all of a sudden the Switch came out. We're like, oh, this is amazing, right? So it's just a reiteration of what they did with the Wii U. So I'm not really looking forward to any kind of stylistic model that they're going to make. I think Nintendo knows what they're doing with the consoles. As far as video games go, there's only like 2 games that I'm looking forward to. I never played the original Paper Mario. Okay. I hate remasters, but I never played it, so I might pick it up because my son is actually looking forward to it as well. And then Metroid Prime 4, which I love Metroid, right? So I'm looking forward to that, but we don't know if that's coming out this year or, but I'm assuming they would use that title to sell the next Switch when it comes out, right?
For sure. I said that Metroid Prime, I was never into the Prime games. Like the first person perspective Metroid didn't interest me. But a Metroid Prime 4 as a launch title on a more powerful Switch, like if you can give me 60 FPS, maybe the FOV's a little bit bigger, I'd be interested, because I do love Metroid, and I've been consistently saying I would love like a Super Metroid style Metroidvania, because Metroid Dread was a little bit more of a Metroid Fusion style, which isn't quite the same as like a Metroidvania. And people loved it, and it got awards, and that's great, but that would just kind of just not my preference. And I said that'd be an amazing launch title. I also said, hey, look, it's been 10 years since we've had a new Mario Kart. And a launch title.
Really been 10 years?
Mario Kart 8 came out 10 years ago, yeah.
It didn't come out, it didn't launch with the Switch, it came out before the Switch.
Yeah, it was out on the exact date, I believe, was
I didn't know that.
because it's Mario Kart 8.
Right.
And the original release date, I believe what they did with this one is, I think it came later to Switch, because it came out in May of 2014 when it first came out.
I thought it launched for some reason with the Switch.
Well, and I believe the one we have now is actually Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So
Yes,
like
it is deluxe, yeah.
they upped it, added some stuff, and that's fine. And they've done great things with Mario Kart 8. Like there's all those DLC tracks that they added. They pulled a bunch of tracks.
100 tracks. Yeah, there's like 100 tracks in the game.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But I'm telling you, a great launch title for a new Switch would be a new Mario Kart, along with like what you said with a new Metroid Prime. And go ahead.
I was going to say, the problem with Switch for me is if I'm going to buy a third-party game, I'm going to get it on another console or PC, right? I'm not going to get it for the Switch. The only reason to get a Switch, a third-party game, is like some random, game that's third-party, but it just feels like it would be good a mobile device. You know what I'm talking about? Like, I'm trying to think like a 2K drive, like Lego 2K drive or something like that, right? Like you can get it for Xbox and PlayStation and PC, but a game like that would feel good. Or like the Lego Saga, the complete saga would be good on the Switch. But other than that, like I only play Nintendo for the first party Nintendo games. So I'm not any game that comes out third party. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get Hogwarts on the Switch. That's not gonna happen.
Well, and their first-party titles sell so incredibly well. I mean, I made the mistake of buying, like, the Lego Marvel game on the Switch. And I'm like, why did I do this? It ran pretty poorly. Like, the load times were crazy. Like, once you were in the game, it wasn't bad.
Right.
But, like, my kids were playing split screen, and it was kind of rough. I was like, oh, golly, and if you
rough
were to
for you or rough for them?
Well, they didn't really notice.
Exactly, okay.
But my daughter did start to pick up on this when they were playing Fall Guys. Because, I would be playing on the PlayStation 5, my son's on the Series X. Right. She's on the Switch because she, wants to hold it. But I think she started to realize, the animations and everything, it wasn't the same game. Like, it didn't quite look as nice.
Yeah.
And so I think she started picking up on that. And, it's understandable because, once your eyes adjust and you feel like there's, it's just smoother when you have, that higher frames per second, or you're getting into games or levels and stuff faster. You're just going to pick up on those things. And so my big thing with the Switch 2, I didn't really even think about the controllers, because as long as I can buy a Pro controller, I don't care. But I do agree with you. As a portable device, if I would have ever really wanted to play that thing portable, it really does. I don't even have big hands. I'm not a big person. So it's even my hands, I feel like I'm cramping up.
Yeah, it just needs to be a little wider, I think, because when you hold the Switch as a whole thing in your hand, you got that gap in between your hands, because you know what I mean? And I just want it to be more conformed. I don't know. I know it's a personal preference, but
I know what you mean, because it's flat and you want something, because we're, PlayStation 5 and Xbox controllers and even the Nintendo Switch Pro controllers, they're round, so you can kind of get your fingers around them. And that when it's just flat on the back.
Yeah, I call it pinky finger. You know what I mean? Like where you use your pinky, you put it when you're holding the thing, you have your pinky hanging out at the bottom of the yeah. And your pinkies are like the kickstands for the holding up the Switch. I just wanted a little bit more conformed around my hand. That's all.
Yeah. Well, and in the realm of performance, I think that performance is a concern for me as well, because I've gotten to the point where Nintendo had an incredible year last year. Super Mario RPG Remake, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, they were really doing great. But I just feel like the crack started to show on the surface of a device that launched in 2017 that was already not that strong to begin with when it launched. And in 2023, 6 years later, I just couldn't do it. I beat Breath of the Wild, but Tears of the Kingdom, I just couldn't do it. Like, as soon as I went and played another game that was running 60 FPS, maybe a higher resolution, going back was, it was actually kind of painful. And it was actually kind of sad to put the game down because Tears of the Kingdom was a nuts game. Like, it opens up. There's just such large scale scope. The stuff that you're doing is incredible. Like, I can't believe they got that game to even run on the Switch to begin with. How much is performance a factor for you in this new Switch? Are you looking at the 60 frames and saying, yeah, I really want those games to get that uptick? Some backwards compatibility, I think, is almost assumed at this point.
I mean, I'm not like you, where, and that's not an insult to you in any way, shape, or form. Like, I'm not as picky with the performance and stuff like that, right? I just, if I like a game, I'll play the game and enjoy the game. But for instance, like I said, I'm not going to play Hogwarts on there because it's going to be too intense and it's going to ruin the experience for me with a game like that. So performance-wise, I would like them to step it up. I would like them. I'm not asking for a PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X type of style, but from what they have the Switch now, raise the bar up. So if it's just below, what the current gen systems are now, and they're just below that, I think for Nintendo, that's a huge upgrade, where it doesn't have to compete with PlayStation and Xbox because Nintendo doesn't have to compete with them. But just graphically, if they just bring it up and they don't have to hit that bar, just underneath that bar, I think that would be a huge change and a win for Nintendo.
Well, and at some level, I think you're totally right. Like, I know I guess I don't know if I would describe it as picky. I know what you mean, though. Like, I have preferences that are maybe more rigid because of just my experiences. It's like,
you know what you like, right? And you want it, right? That's it.
And it's hard to go backwards. Like, it feels like you're going backwards when you're on a PS5 and you're playing God of War Ragnarok, which, Digital Foundry has, fawned over and given high praise. That, Cyberpunk, high praise of that game. Even Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, which, didn't do the greatest with review outlets. It's been hailed as one of the best looking games of 2023. To play games like that and then to go play Tears of the Kingdom, and it's like, it's barely 1080 and it's not even holding 30 frames. It's like, oh boy. It feels like I'm taking a step back in time. And so I do know, though, that a lot of people are not like me, and I don't even know if Nintendo cares that much. I think their concern more is just that portability. That's what's been such a huge factor of the popularity of the Nintendo Switch, and it's just sold so incredibly well across markets. Like, when we crunch the numbers, 1 in every 4 people in Japan basically has a Switch. Like, if you look at the population of Japan, how many Switches they sold there, it's like every 4th person's got a Switch. Like, that's crazy. To be that interwoven into a culture and to have that level of an attach rate is just crazy.
Well, that, and they commute a lot in that country, right? So there's a lot of commuters in that. So the portable is just a banging over there, right?
Yeah, it's perfect for that, and I think gaming on the go is going to continue to grow. We've got the PS Portal. We know companies are wanting to invest more in cloud, so I'll be interested to see if Nintendo tries to leverage any of that, because they haven't really done much. Their online is there, but it's not the best. If you want to add a friend, you got these big, long friend codes. There's not a huge social aspect. If you play their games online, the connections are always, they're not always the best. You can't even plug the thing in directly with an Ethernet cable. It's always Wi-Fi, which is always a bummer when you have to go download a game. It's like, man, I know I'd be able to download this way faster if I could just plug in to the router. Aside from the controllers and, some of the games you mentioned, are there any other Nintendo games coming this year that you're like, yo, I've got to check that one out? Because there's the Mario versus Donkey Kong. That's also a remake. That's a 20-year-old game, though.
Yeah.
And then there's the Princess Peach Showtime, which that game's growing on me. I got excited for that one from my daughter. And then the more I'm looking at it, I'm like, this game might actually be kind of fun. Like, I might be playing it in secret. Like, no, I'm not playing it. Like, telling my daughter, like, I'm not playing it. And I'm going to be like, platinuming Princess Peach.
There's nothing that I can think of Nintendo. I'm sure if my son was here and you asked him, he could shoot off like 10, 15 games.
Right.
For me, I can't name one. I have no interest in Nintendo Switch because I don't get to play it, so there's no reason to look at it.
Did you play Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 on the Nintendo Wii back in the day?
I played Galaxy 1. I didn't play 2.
I thought those were two of the best Mario games ever made. Like, I hadn't enjoyed a Mario game like that since, like, Mario 64.
I liked Odyssey. Did you play Odyssey?
Odyssey, for some reason, my wife and I fell off that game. We got to, like, a city when we were up on buildings and stuff.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm not digging this game. Like, there was something about it. I was having a hard time deducing when it was time to move on. Because, like, you see stuff you think you can do, but you might have to come back later. And I was having a hard time telling, like, should we give up on this or should we keep trying? And then you have some play sessions where you feel like you don't get anything done because, like, you were trying to get up to this area and maybe you couldn't yet. And so, yeah, we didn't vibe with that game as much as Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. Like, man, we just, every night we were wanting to play, and we shot through those games super fast. But Odyssey didn't do it for me.
One of the ones I didn't like growing up was Sunshine, Mario Sunshine. For some reason on the GameCube, I could not for the life of me get into. I tried it multiple times. This is like, yeah, this is not jiving with me. I don't like it. My wife loved it. I just couldn't get into it.
Well, what do you think they're going to call this thing? Are they going to call it the Nintendo Switch 2? I see people saying they're going to call it the Super Nintendo Switch, which I think is hilarious. I love that.
Super Switch.
The Super Switch. You got any guesses? Nintendo Switch 2?
I don't know.
Just do the number?
They're probably just going to do the number. I'm interested in, do you think they still stick with the cartridge? Like the little cartridge? Or do you think they change the format completely?
They're going to have to let you use your old ones. They've already expressed that they want to have it be backwards compatible. They want your games to come with you. So I don't think they're going to be able to get away from it. Now, maybe they do larger capacity, or maybe they give you an adapter for your old games or something just so you can still,
Right. They just change the size of the cartridge, and then they make an adapter piece where you take your old games, stick it in the cartridge, and that cartridge sticks into your... That could do something like that. Nintendo's crazy. They'll do it.
Maybe. I wonder if... I thought of this one the other day, and I don't know if it sounds good. I don't know if I like it yet, but they announced that remaster/remake of Luigi's Mansion 2. And they're calling it Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. And I was like, they've got the Nintendo Switch, they've got the Nintendo Switch Lite, they've got the Nintendo Switch OLED. What if they called this one the Nintendo Switch HD? To almost try to create a homogenization of, like, it's just the Switch, it's still just the Switch. This is the Nintendo Switch HD. And they give you a higher resolution experience. They give you higher frames, but then they're able to keep, because that Nintendo Switch branding, it is everywhere. It's almost as if the brand has switched to that. No pun intended. It's switched to that. But if you look at everything, it's like the red and the white. You go to Nintendo.com. It's like Nintendo Switch is the brands now. So I don't know. I was curious if maybe that Luigi's Mansion HD was a hint at, like, HD. I mean, they've remastering all kinds of games. I don't know if I've ever seen them call. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are other games with, like, that HD on it. But that just kind of hit me as you would just have this nice, spectrum of Switches you can buy, and then they would continue supporting, because you got 130...
Doing the iPhone thing?
Well, you got 130 million Switches in circulation right now. I would think they would want to have cross-gen support for another 5 years, because those people are just going to keep playing those things, especially when they don't need high-fidelity graphics. Everybody's going to buy... The next Pokemon could be called Pokemon FU, and people would buy it. Like, it just doesn't matter. Yeah. So I would think...
God, I hope that's the name.
Yeah, I hope it, Pokemon FU says Pikachu, make it rhyme. But I'm telling you... That would be a massive, massive pull to say the Nintendo Switch platform is continuing to grow. Now, you would run into the problem of, if developers want to bring games to Nintendo, third party, and they really want to tap into the new power, and they'd have to leave behind the old. I'm curious how that would play out, but that's just a theory I'm throwing out there, is they're going to homogenize this thing, and it's going to be another Nintendo Switch Lite, OLED, and this will be the Nintendo Switch HD.
Do you think I want to say the fans, because the fans will take whatever but do you think it's you kind of said it a little bit, like a cop-out if they don't, like, give us a brand new system, right? They just stick with this one and give it the upgrade that you're doing. Do you think people are going to look at that and go, it's sort of like the Wii to Wii U, right? The Wii U sold terribly.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yep.
Like, when they changed to the Wii was groundbreaking, and it changed everything, and it sold like hotcakes. And then they did the Wii U, and dramatically failed, but it doesn't matter because it was so successful for the Wii. And then when they came out with the Switch, do they do that again? Do they have that where all of a sudden it's like a wet towel, just slaps on the ground when they come out with a Switch 2, and it's really just the Switch 1 just upgraded, like a PlayStation 5 Pro or something like that, or the Xbox Series Pro. So I don't know. I think Nintendo, I always called Nintendo Crazy Uncle Nintendo, because every time we think they're going to do something, they can do something completely out of the blue, and you're like, it's never going to work, and they prove everyone wrong when they do it.
Yeah, I mean, they sold cardboard for crying out loud to people.
They did.
Just do whatever they want.
That's right. They did sell cardboard. I totally forgot about that.
They'll sell paper airplanes.
You can play the piano, and it's a cardboard box.
Yeah.
And you're just
They'd sell paper airplanes, like buy Nintendo paper airplanes. What do you do with them? Well, you throw them while holding the Nintendo Switch controller. Yeah, but why? Yeah. Well, you're going to buy it. Sure, I'll take 10. Like, they just... I think they have an appeal that's interesting, because I remember I was talking to my audience once about this, and we struggle to cover Nintendo stuff because most of my audience feels like they're a little bit more firmly rooted in the consoles and PC, and Nintendo kind of feels like this other thing over here. But I said something to the effect of like, yeah, I'm not really a Sonic guy, and I had people getting really angry, and I'm like, what do you want me to say? I grew up and I always had a Nintendo in the home. It doesn't matter what Mario game it is. Like when Super Mario Brothers Wonder came out, I was like, I have to get that and see if that's any good. But if a Sonic game comes out, I'm like, yeah, well, whatever. So, Sonic Frontiers, like people were like, it's a lot better than we thought it was going to be, and it scored a little bit better than we thought it was going to score. And I look at it and go, yeah, that's fine. It's Sonic. Like, I just don't care. They have such a nostalgic pull for people like myself. It's like, I feel like I'm always going to have a Nintendo in my home. It's that ever-present brand.
Yeah, it's a staple. It's like getting a coffee maker or a toaster.
You
get a Nintendo and you put it in your house. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember taking the original Game Boy on really, really long trips, and that Mario game was so stinking hard. It was really, really hard. I remember fighting. There was like an octopus you had to fight that was like underwater, and the levels just got harder and harder and harder. But it didn't matter, man. It was Mario. You just kept playing. And
yeah, my Game Boy went everywhere with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and those things were so hard to see because they weren't backlit, and you could get like the lights for them and stuff.
No, you had to get the light to clip onto the actual thing to look through the screen, and then it lit up the screen around it. Yeah.
Did you have the one that lit it up and zoomed it in? It was like a magnifying glass.
Yeah, there's a magnifying glass. Yeah, sure did.
That was terrible. It was
sure
so bad.
Nintendo tries different things, man.
I don't know what system it was for. I want to say it was the Nintendo 64. I had a Pokemon game on my on my Game Boy Color. And there was an adapter where you could take the cartridge out, slap it in a bigger cartridge, and play it on your... I want to say it was Super Nintendo or 64. I can't remember which system I did this with.
This is what I'm saying. If they do it with the Switch, if they change the format of it, they'll make a cartridge, or they just take the smaller cartridge, stick it in the bigger cartridge. It's the same thing. They're just doing it again.
I love it. I absolutely love it. If we go back to the point where we're like actually having tangible, sizable cartridges that we get to hold, people are like, physical's dead. Physical's not dead, dude. Physical sells really well. So I love it.
Physical's dead. Physical's dead everywhere except Nintendo.
Well, some markets physical still does really well. Like digital is in the 50 to 60% range on certain markets. But yeah, actually, physical is stronger than I expected it to be at this point. People still really like to buy physical. To me, I've fully just been like, who cares, dude? Just download the game. I don't care. People
yeah, I'm on the other side where I want to keep physical, but I know the physical doesn't matter anymore. And what bit me was Battleborn back in the day when I bought the physical disc, right? And they said, "Oh, we're done with it." I'm like, "What about the single player aspect?" They're like, "It doesn't matter. It's closed down." I'm like, "But I have the disc. It doesn't matter. If they shut it down, it shuts down." You're like, "Okay, well, now I have a coaster of Battleborn."
Yeah. I mean, Eugene's saying physical is the primary form of sales for PlayStation. Like, I think physical is really, really strong in a lot of places. I think we just start to presume. The last time I bought the only things I buy physical are like the collector's editions. I got the big Ragnarok thing. You can see it. They can't over there with my Legos, but and then I got the big Spider-Man one. I got the 19 inches of Venom. But I don't really want to go to the store and buy a disc, especially because so often now, like, the disc is nothing.
Right. It's got like 12 megabytes on it. It's like the key to open the door. That's basically it. Yeah.
Yo, thank you so much for that brand new membership. I appreciate that, Minato the Fourth. That's going to move the number, man. I appreciate you pushing that all on your own. It's always good to see those white badges. Well, I want to move on from Nintendo because I know Nintendo is I swear people, it's funny how nostalgic it is, but how many people are like, they all shrug at Nintendo, which you shouldn't shrug at Nintendo. It's like shrugging at Godzilla. They're the monster in the room that people act like, they just make kids games. No, okay. They're the biggest. They're the biggest and the best, all right? But this Star Wars Outlaws situation is interesting because, I'm following the game closely. I know you are because it's Star Wars, and the details are looking very promising for this game. And why I had made a video where there was an earnings call and they had said, we're going to move our other big game, our other large game to the next fiscal year. And so we're thinking, it's going to get pushed to later in the year.
Right.
And then there's this Disney Parks blog that says it's coming late 2024. IGN runs a story within an hour. The blog is edited and Ubisoft has reached out to IGN. Now, you and I both know that's fast, that someone saw the report and got the word to whoever could edit the blog, as well as whoever was in charge of contacting IGN. Like, this to me was extremely quick in our spaces. This felt fast. There were a lot of different theories about this. Like, maybe they didn't want people thinking it was late, because as soon as I heard late 2024,
you lose interest.
Well, no, I thought it was going to get delayed.
Yeah, pushed back to 2025 as well.
Yeah, like, late 2024? Oh, yeah, that's going to roll over. It's not going to make it. And everybody, I asked people, I tweeted it out, I was like, what's everybody thinking? Everybody was like, oh, yeah, it's going to get delayed, it's going to get delayed. But there were other people that were like, well, maybe it's coming earlier. And then I had my own fear that someone at Disney said, that's not coming out late this year, that's coming out soon, because they want a new Star Wars game every 6 months. So I have concerns that somewhere Disney took a snap and was like, hey, no, that's got to come out earlier. Where do you land on this? Is this a concern? Is this thing going to get delayed? Because I was celebrating it getting pushed back. I thought that means Disney is giving companies freedom to delay their games, because Jedi Survivor needed easily another year because it still isn't in good shape on PC. And I know that came out because of Disney, because the director left. He's like, I'm out of here. Like the guy who directed the last the 2 Jedi games, he's gone. He went to Santa Monica.
Well, I thought the director that was doing Outlaws was the same person that worked on Division 1 and 2.
The director for Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order, he left to go to Santa Monica because Jedi Survivor is still in bad shape. I feel like it came out too early, and I'm looking at this game thinking, please, I hope this reaction to that late in 2024, I'm hoping it wasn't a Disney push of like, no, you're not releasing that late this year.
I did an article last year. It was like, I want to say March. It's before we even knew about Outlaws, right? Star Wars Outlaws. There was an article that talked about how Ubisoft had a game and Massive was working on it, and they were like, it's supposedly coming on. This was a leak from a source, and it said it was supposed to come out in early 2024, or because of the fiscal year, because they wanted it out before the next fiscal year. And then another one said that it could get pushed back from April of 2024 to March of 2025. So it could come out earlier, but obviously everyone likes May the 4th, right? May the 4th is like the Star Wars day or whatnot. And I do believe that when they said late 2024, they're like, whoa, shut up. Like, don't say that, because exactly what you just said, right? Everyone's like, oh, it's going to probably get pushed back to 2025. So I think they just said, let's just leave it generic 2024. And I think they're kind of like looking at because it's very important for video games to figure out where they're landing in the year, right? Mm-hmm. It's very competitive of what comes out, what else is coming out during that time frame. If you notice, there's a lot of games already that we know of that are coming out in February and March, and those are packed, okay? But then the rest of the year, if you start looking through the lists, they're like sporadic. And then there's a lot of games that are supposed to come out this year that do not have dates yet, right? Because they're all kind of looking, and they all kind of like sit back. It's like calling someone else's bluff in poker, right? You're just picture all the devs sitting around a table playing poker, and they're like, I got a pair of kings, and you're like, oh damn, he's got a king. Do I show my hand, right? Like they're trying to jockey the position of who's going to take what position and what's the best to launch on. So I think this game's done. I think this game's done. I think this game's like a movie. Okay, what I mean by that is movies get shot and they get put on the shelf for a bit. If they're done and they're through the editing process, and then the movie studio's like, let's not launch that just yet. And I think because it's Disney, that's exactly what Disney's doing. Massive made this. We already know the guy's already moving on to working on Division 3. Okay, so this game is done, and I think they're just waiting to see when it's supposed to come out and what's the best time frame. That's I think it's coming out this year, but obviously I don't know when.
Yeah, I kind of agree. We brought up the May the 4th thing so many times. It's like, how do you not launch it then, right? How do you not launch on May the 4th? Yeah. And Jedi Survivor could have done it, but it still probably wouldn't have been in good shape, so it wouldn't have made much of a difference. But yeah, I wonder if this thing is going to be this big, huge surprise. Like they drop it on May the 4th, which would land outside of the fiscal year that one earnings report said they pushed it out of, which that would land in the next. But I also thought, well, if it's in the next fiscal year, it could get pushed in the first quarter of 2025, and maybe that's why they didn't want that late 2024 there, because they can just kind of ride the year, and everybody's thinking, oh, it's coming in 2024, and they can just kind of ride that, and then late in the year they can be like, yeah, we had to make the unfortunate decision. It's going to come out in February or March now. And I just think that kind of a delay, that lands not quite as painful than if they let people know, oh, it's coming late 2024. So people spend all year long thinking, yeah, here it comes, and then they delay it. It's almost like they prefer the vague release window, because they told IGN, they said the blog now reflects the correct release window, and it's like, it just says 2024. How's that a release window? That's the whole year. Right.
This is coming out sometime before now and whenever it comes out. Like, okay. The thing is with Star Wars, Disney said they wanted to make one large Star Wars game and one smaller Star Wars game every year for the next 6 years, right? So it's supposed to be 2 Star Wars games per year coming out, a larger one in the first half, and then another one in the second half. And the mobile game, or the lower, what was it called, Bounty Hunter or Star Wars Hunters, right? That didn't show up last year, right? So now that's pushed into this year, and that's coming out, and that's the smaller game, right? So now is there 2 smaller games coming out this year because Hunters got pushed back, and then Star Wars is coming, another smaller game of Star Wars is coming out, and then you have the large one. If this one gets pushed back to next year, then what's in this fiscal year of a larger game? Because last year was Jedi Survivor. That was the bigger Star Wars game, and Hunters was supposed to be the smaller Star Wars game. This year, Outlaws is supposed to be the bigger game. So then what's the smaller game? Or do they have another game that they're working on that we don't know about? Which there was a leak about a Mandalorian game by id, right? So that could be maybe coming out this year. Who knows, right? But Disney said they wanted 2 Star Wars games per year. Every 6 months, they wanted one large, one small every year for 6 years.
And every time I hear that, I think that just sounds like somebody somewhere who is, I can almost hear them talking. Like, I want this many games or this many years. Dude, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you can't make that kind of a demand of development studios, because what you end up with is, Survivor should have come out probably holiday. But then it wouldn't have landed at the cadence that they wanted. So they got the cadence that they wanted, but now that game looks like trash on PC. Terrible score. It'll probably never have a good footprint there, which is a shame, because it's probably one of the best Star Wars stories you can experience.
Right. Well, look where they had to put it, right? They had to rush it out, because if they waited, and again, this is just me just speculating and basing it based on movies when I worked in the movie industry. If they took Survivor and pushed it towards summer, it was going up against Diablo. Right? Even though it's not the same type of game, they would have been overshadowed by Diablo, so they had to get it out before that. And then if they waited a little longer, then you had Starfield. Even though people don't like Starfield, it still would overshadow what Jedi Survivor was. And then on top of that, you got the sleeper hit of Baldur's Gate 3, which overshadowed a bunch of other things. So everyone's always looking at what's the best window to put the video game spot in, and they're like, you know what? Let's launch it. It's got some problems, but at least we'll get it out there. We'll be seen.
Yeah, and I think that's something that just bothers me about the way Disney handles Star Wars property. They lean on it knowing that it's powerful, But I worry that you lean on it too much, and you're really going to break it and tarnish it. I think we've seen that with movies 7, 8, and 9. We've seen that with Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan as far as pieces of entertainment, extremely inconsistent in quality. Andor is 10 out of 10, and Obi-Wan's like a 5. Like, it's like, what are we doing here? What are you
being
doing?
Generous with that 5.
Right. And I look at Jedi Survivor and I'm like, you took a great game and you broke its ankle. Like, it's just awful. It's like, it's such a shame. It's so frustrating to see a great game and a great story and a great character. And, I like Cameron Monaghan he's out here promoting it, talking about how, there's a third game on the way. And then the director walks. I'm like, oh, here we go. That corporate Disney mindset. And I'm looking at Star Wars Outlaws. It's one of my most anticipated games this year. And it's like, man, you guys are gonna push this thing out, and then you know what everybody's gonna say? They're gonna say, classic Ubisoft, and if it's got any problems at all, everybody's gonna be, hyper critical of it. And I just hope that's not the case. I hope it was as simple as, no, the timeline's actually better now. We're going to be able to release earlier now, or something to that effect. And I really hope that's what it is. I hope it's a best case scenario and not a worst case scenario where Disney stepped in and said, you are absolutely not releasing that late this year.
I kind of wish that they go the route of not saying anything at all. I'm okay with the generic 2024, but as the year goes on and 2024 starts to fade away and there's 2025 approaching, you're like, well, is it coming out? Like, this happened to Space Marines too. It was supposed to come out in November, then December, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, it's going to be September of 2024. And you're like, what? What happened? Like, so, and same with Suicide Squad. Oh, it's coming out in May. And then all of a sudden they delay it, 4 weeks before, and then it's 10 months later. So, like, Starfield did it, 11/11. This is the hard date, and then all of a sudden they missed it. So I'm okay if they don't tell us an actual hard date. Just work on the game. My motto is make a game, sell a game, instead of this hype up stuff of when it's supposed to come out, and then you have what you have where it comes out and it's hobbling because performance issues, or it needed another 6 months to bake, or and I wish Disney and any other company that has these IPs, these big IPs, that don't just automatically go, well, we have Avatar, so Avatar is going to sell 1 billion copies, right? Like, that's their mentality, and I hate that. I hate that when they do that.
Well, and it's what it does is it creates this lack of confidence in any game that comes out attached to a big IP, because it's like, well, it's going to be crap. Movie games are going to be crap. Star Wars games are going to be crap, and that's the frustration I have, is because they're taking IP that we all love and they're just really, really mistreating it. And then you have titles like Avengers that was so poor that it hurt Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's a great game, which you can get it for free right now in the Epic Store, guys. Guardians of the Galaxy, great game. Go snag that one. And so I hope everything we're worried about here, everything we're kind of sensing, I hope it's all false alarms, because I think Star Wars Outlaws looks to be one of my favorite games of the year, really do, and I'm very excited for it. It's only beat out by Hellblade 2 for me. And before we get to that, like, oh, these are all the games we're looking forward to, because the list is just crazy. Like, I was gonna do a list, and then I was like, I gotta trim this down to 25, and then I had 7 remakes and remasters that I also listed, and I still left some of those out as well. So many remasters and remakes this year that are actually really promising. But I want to talk about this PlayStation 5 Pro, because there's a lot of opinions on this, and I think it's coming. I think it's going to be here holiday. I think guys like you are in the best position because you've been waiting, and then you'll be able to be like, you know what? I'm finally going to get a PS5, and I'm going to get it for cheaper. Or you'll just get the king. You'll just get the PS5 Pro. What's your thoughts on this? Because we're 4 years into the gen. There's a lot of different responses to this. This is too early. This is ridiculous. We just now finally got a PS5 only title in Spider-Man 2. Like, what are we doing here? And then there's the question of what's Xbox going to do. So where do you land on the PS5 Pro? As a consumer, but then also just as a commentator, like looking at the industry and everything that's going on.
Who's saying it's coming out too early? Like, that sounds like a person that's never experienced any other system beforehand, because without even looking anything up, 2003 is when PlayStation 3 came out, and 2006 is when PlayStation 3 Pro came out. And then I think it was 2011 was PlayStation 4, and then 2013 was PlayStation 4, and then 2016 was PlayStation 4 Pro, which is 3 years in the cycle. So technically, this is longer than it was for the other two systems that had a Pro system.
Well, there wasn't a PS3 Pro. There was just a PS4 Pro. What are you thinking of when you say PS3?
No, there was an upgrade. In 2009, there was an upgrade. I know because I got it.
What did they call it? I don't think they called it.
I don't think it was called a
Pro,
but it was the mid-tier version or whatever it was. They did an upgrade console in 2009. It came out in 2006.
Was it like a Slim or something? I wonder if it was a Slim.
Definitely wasn't a Slim. It wasn't called a Pro, but it was the mid console upgrade, whatever it was. Still 3 years in. My point, Chad, is the upgrade for the console was 3 years into the cycle. PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 4 Pro was 3 years into the cycle. This is 4 years into the cycle of PlayStation 5. So it's not shorter, it's longer. So people saying that, oh, this is too soon, that's factually incorrect.
Yeah, it was a Slim with a larger hard drive. I think you're remembering that they did something. They didn't call it a Pro. But you are correct. That's a pattern. And the pattern with the PS4 was they did the same thing 3 years in. They're like, hey, here's an upgraded version of the thing.
Right.
So I'm gonna push back, and I agree with you. But I think what people would push back and say, well, this generation just took so long to get started. It didn't really get started until 2022.
Yeah, because there was a huge thing that all happened to planet Earth.
That's right. That's right. The whole globe. Went through something.
The whole globe went through something.
For sure. And so I agree with you. I think that the perception is it's too soon because of what happened, and they don't realize that everything got bumped back, man. You're right. They're correct. We just got a PS5 only title with Spider-Man 2.
Right.
And a PS5 only DLC with Burning Shores, and they both look phenomenal. And I think we're about to enter the golden age of the gen. The back half of the back half of the gen is always when things heat up, and this year is heating up. There's so many games coming out, and I'm not concerned either about this. Like, people, I think, just assume that the standard PS5 isn't going to get as good a treatment or as good a games, and I just don't think that's the case. The rumor, the leaks, that what everybody's pointing to is that it's going to use some kind of AI upscaling, because there was a slide from the Insomniac leak about Wolverine that said it was going to leverage AI upscaling so that you could get 60 FPS while also getting ray tracing. Is that enough to compel you to be like, oh, I want the best version? I know you're like, I'm not like you. I don't really care as much about that. But if you're going to be getting, if this is actually going to happen where you pick performance mode in the game and you're not just getting 60 FPS, you're also getting ray tracing on a box that's going to be 550 or 600, where are you landing? Are you like, no, I'm going to take the cheaper PS5, or are you snagging the Pro?
It all depends. It all depends financially when it comes out and what I have to spend on a console. Like, do I want to spend, if it's $600 on the, I want a PlayStation, right? But you're right. Do I get the PlayStation 5 Pro? And there's going to be enough changes in that where I decide to get $600 instead of getting the cheaper one now, which will be like $250, $300 when that one comes out, right? Or pick up a secondhand console from someone that's upgrading. I don't know. I mean, I kind of look at, I'm waiting for Spider-Man 2 to probably come on PC, because even if I spend that $500 on the PlayStation 5 Pro, I would rather wait for the game to come out, because my PC is more powerful than the PlayStation 5 Pro, right? So I would just wait to play those games. And yes, I'm waiting longer, but at that point, if you're not keeping up with the Joneses, it doesn't really matter, right? So I can wait for those games that I want to play and then be on PC and wait that time. Reverse here. If I was a PlayStation owner and Xbox was doing the exact same thing now, but I have a PlayStation and a PC, I wouldn't buy an Xbox, because I have the two things that are covering my gaming needs that I want, right? And right now I have an Xbox and I don't have a PlayStation, and the PC is covering the stuff that I can't play right now on, because I don't have a PlayStation, and I'm just waiting for those games to come out on PC. So for me, it's not really a dire need when PlayStation 5 Pro comes out. And then I've already learned my lesson, because the games that come out usually take 2 to 3 years to get to that level. and now the PlayStation 5 Pro comes out. So it's like they say it does this, but does it do this? And are they pushing it to the limit? So I would wait for like Digital Foundry or someone else to really like give me a deep dive into it to see and sell me on that system.
Yeah, well, and I'm getting some pushback, and this is fair pushback. True SSJ Havoc with a $5 super chat says, to be fair, Lono, the PS5 had PS5 only titles from the beginning: Ratchet & Clank, Rift Apart, Returnal. Sure. I don't disagree. But I think in many people's minds, like Spider-Man 2 is kind of the first big PlayStation 5 only title. They've got a lot of the consoles are in circulation. You know, when Ratchet and Clank and Returnal dropped, you know, that was there was 7 to 10 million PlayStation 5s in circulation. So you're not wrong. I need to be careful with how I talk about that, but I'm just kind of echoing what I'm seeing. A lot of people are like, we're just now getting PS5 only titles as the standard. Spider-Man 2 and beyond is supposed to be PS5 only from first party. So my perspective on it was that they're going to so PlayStation bought this iSize company, which they specialize in AI solutions for video streaming.
Okay.
And my theory was they're going to achieve this AI upscaling in video games, and they built their own AI upscaler with the help of iSize. That's kind of the theory I floated out there. Because currently, if you want to do anything with AI or AI upsampling, upscaling, you need like dedicated hardware. And according to a notable hardware leaker, the CPU is not going to use the AMD AI architecture. Forgot about Demon Souls Remake. Yeah, Demon Souls Remake is also PS5 only. Thank you. So I think that's how they're going to achieve it, which it begs the question, because I basically said this will function. I called it a developer pheromone. They're going to make the PlayStation 5 really, really attractive to developers because they cannot afford to buy developers at the rate that Xbox can, because the Activision Blizzard purchase is insane. It's like you're never going to be able to go toe-to-toe with that. So do you envision anything like that happening? And then do you think, well, what's Xbox's response going to be? Because as far as we can tell, Xbox isn't going to do a mid-gen, but then there's the rumors about something coming 2 years from now. I don't have a lot of confidence that that's happening. Where do you see the economy and sort of the ecosystem going here, with PlayStation's going to run way out in front and say, we've got the strongest console. Like, no one's really even going to be on the landscape with them at that level anymore.
Well, here's the thing. If there's no competition, right? Because if Xbox goes the way, or Microsoft goes the way of the cloud, and they're not really making a powerful console to compete with the PlayStation, why does the PlayStation have to start leveling up so much, right? They can just do incremental changes and still be the dominating force, because obviously the Switch, if it comes out, is not going to be competing with the PlayStation 5, right? PlayStation 5 is that set where they have the best console out there. And then Microsoft is going a completely separate direction. So does Sony keep pushing? And then do you get a PlayStation 6 that's super more powerful than the PlayStation 5 Pro? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's their driving factor? Because if they have that core audience that's already buying the stuff, I mean, I guess they could put whatever they want out and that people will buy it, but there's no competition. So there's no innovation anymore if they're sticking with the traditional consoles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how would they, what would they do to compete then? If there's no competition, then they're just going to kind of flutter out, not say they're going to go bankrupt or anything like that. It just, they're like, well, we're the only ones left here, so we don't really have to start competing and going, oh, well, Xbox came out with this, so we have to top them. It's just, we're the only ones left with this powerful console, so why do we have to push the envelope even farther?
I think a lot of people say that, and I think the mistake that's being made in that sort of projection or prediction of, oh, that's what's going to happen if there's no competition, PlayStation they'll kind of phone it in, or they won't innovate, or they won't push. They won't have this competitive mindset. I think the mistake that's being made in that assessment is that this is a content war, and they're going to still want to compete for the developer's attention. So they're going to continue to talk to developers and say, what do you need? What are you trying to do? Where are the pain points? Where are the friction points? And they're going to want to push that technological envelope so that when the PS6 is being made and developed and they're coming up with its architecture, they're going to be staying lock in step with what developers want. And we know developers are always wanting to do the next thing, the stronger thing, the flashier thing. So I think that's going to keep PlayStation on the front of the technological wave as best as they can, right? They're not going to keep up with PCs, but they don't need to keep up with PCs. If they're pacing with a $1,200 gaming rig that you can buy at Best Buy, and the PlayStation 6 or the PlayStation 5 Pro is able to use similar buzzwords, 60 FPS, 4K, ray tracing, the average consumer is going to say, this is a better deal. Like, the average consumer is not going to walk into Best Buy and be like, well, you've got gaming rigs for $1,200 and you've got a PlayStation for $600, but I know that I can get X number more pixels and X number more frames if I buy that PC. And I also know that Steam has this wealth of games. Like, the average consumer's not tuned into that. So I think that PlayStation can really, really start to stand out in front on that move, and then nobody's even going to consider, like, if you want the best graphics, you're going to go to them.
But they're doing that now. They're doing that now right now.
Right.
But what's the difference? What I'm saying is right now they're competing, and Creature's saying I don't think it's a fair point to argument because Xbox hasn't been competitive, but they have been a competitor. And every time Xbox comes out with a system, PlayStation comes out with a system, or vice versa, right? If there's nobody else coming out with a system to compete with them graphically, power-wise, all this stuff, then what is the driving force for them of going, hey, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to make the best system, because they already are, right? We're going to make the best graphics. We're going to make the best just package, which they are. But now there's no competitors left. They're just in their own little world. So you got Nintendo in their own little world, grabbing everybody with the mobile devices and whatever else. You got PlayStation with the high-end console that no one's competing them for, but it's not high enough where it's competing with PC and PCs out there. And then you have Xbox going, hey, we're over here in the cloud world. All right, so you got four major brands or areas of the industry, and they're all in their own little spheres. No one's competing anymore. They're competing for games, sure. They're competing for that type of stuff, but they're not competing with that head-to-head anymore, because obviously PlayStation needs Xbox, Xbox needs PlayStation, and Xbox has decided not to play anymore. They're moving over here, and PlayStation's like, all right, well, who are we going to pick fights with now? Who's our driving competitor, right? It's just a fun, just nature of business needs someone to compete. We've said it all the time, right? Like, if you're the only person on YouTube or Twitch and no one else is doing it, you don't have to innovate. You're it. You're the top spot, right? But other people innovate, and you see things and you start changing as they start changing, and it makes it better. It's competing. It's fun. If there's no competitor, what's the driving factor?
I do think there would still be a competitive edge that they'd want to maintain, because if Xbox is able to get cloud to better capacity and better quality, currently their cloud quality is not great because they put you on a Series S profile, but I would imagine cloud and cloud technology is going to continue to improve. So if you fast forward 6 years from now, and Microsoft is saying you need a minimum internet speed of this, and you can have 4K gaming right on your TV. Well, PlayStation's got to consider, how do we stay ahead of that? They've got to have their own cloud solution as well, maybe. They've also got to have a system that can do that too. Like, hey, we've got that too. We've got 4K gaming. I still think that Xbox is going to make it to where PlayStation can't just like rest on their laurels and be like, yeah, we got the strongest console, we don't need to do anything.
But PlayStation's at the point where, even regardless if they're selling 3-1 or 4-1, even in the past with PlayStation 2, PlayStation 4, they still have a saturation point. They still haven't hit over a certain amount. I think what the top was 122 million copies. Is it the play, or is it 180 for the PlayStation 2 and 122 for the PlayStation 4?
I forget the exact numbers, but they're set to outpace PS4 from what we're seeing.
Sure, and that'll be more, and then it'll be below PlayStation 2. I'm chat, you have the internet, you're looking at it. I'm not doing that. So I know it's like maybe 180 million copies for PlayStation 2. So that's their top spot. Even if they sell 200 units of PlayStation 5 with PlayStation 5 Pro and whatnot, that's their saturation point. They have the same issue that every other company has. They're like, okay, well, we got all the people that we can get. What do we do now? right? We have to innovate, we have to change, we have to push forward.
Yeah. And I still think the fight is going to be twofold. It's not just a fight for the consumer's attention, it's a fight for the developers. So if PlayStation gets complacent, they would start to lose the love of the developers. Like third-party developers would say, yeah, well, PlayStation didn't really up the ante with the PlayStation 6. They really didn't push the envelope. They didn't innovate enough. We're going to go build for, Xbox's cloud infrastructure is way better. We're going to want to build for Xbox. Like, I do think part of the content war fight is to be really, really easy for developers to build for your platform. And that's where, I'm assuming Xbox could have similar pushes to say, hey, man, when you develop for the cloud, that's everywhere. That's on a phone, that's on a TV, that's on a tablet,
right.
That's everywhere. And if they can make the ecosystem very winsome. So I do think it's more than a fight for the consumer's attention. It's a fight for the developer's attention. And that's why I'm not really worried about PlayStation getting complacent. I actually think we're going to have 3 very different brands over the next 10 years because Nintendo, as you say, crazy Uncle Nintendo, they're always just going to be doing their thing in their way, and their IPs are so insanely popular, they don't need to lean on third party. Right. PlayStation has to heavily lean on third party because that's where most of their money comes from. And in order
they're trying to change. They're trying to change by keeping the first party and also the live service games and whatnot.
Of course. So they're trying to make sure they're a little bit more stable so that if they start to lose some of the third party weight because of maybe better, Microsoft's going to want a better royalty share on Call of Duty once that 10-year contract comes up, right? They're like, yeah, we want 40% now, and what are you going to do? Like, we both need... This is symbiotic here. You need Call of Duty. We need Call of Duty to be on your platform. But, we'd like a little bit better royalty. So I think PlayStation is trying to balance some of that out. We don't want to so heavily rely on the third-party sales, which is why, as you brought up, the live service and the first party. And I think they're going to sort of be couched as the premium platform. They're going to have the...
But they are already.
Sure, but this gen, that just kind of happened because, man, that Series X was looking pretty hot 3 years ago. Well, 4. Come on. It was looking pretty hot, Mike. I was at the 2019 E3 geeking out about Project Scarlet. I was like, what is this thing? This thing sounds incredible, right? That's that world of going toe-to-toe on power. It just seems to have completely changed. And I said it yesterday. I have a demographic in my home that really does fold into Game Pass, games like Towerborn that can shadow drop, and you can play with other people. That's perfect for my kiddos and my family gaming. So that demographic could be really, I think, a big surge maybe for Game Pass and for Xbox going forward. And then the power front just is not a concern anymore. There's that's just not really our concern. Our concern is convenience and play anywhere. And if we, do you think Microsoft tries to fire back with any kind of hardware answer in the next couple of years, like this rumor about an Xbox in 2026?
I still think it's that the next system is that little system that was sitting behind Phil Spencer's head. He said, we can't get the price down. That's a system.
Keystone.
Yeah, the Keystone. That's a system. I don't know if that's the system they're talking about, but that's a system that they were working on. They said they couldn't get the price down to the point. And again, their business model is completely different. They're not looking to sell obviously they want to sell consoles, but that's not their main focus. Their main focus is the subscription service. And if they can get that thing out there and it's below the price point, let's say $150, $100, and it's the cloud gaming, even though PlayStation's doing the high end over here, Xbox is like, well, we're doing cloud over here. This is, again, the food analogy. If there's a high end restaurant and then there's the fast food, they're both in the food industry. They're both competing for food, but at the same time, there's a different clientele that goes to this and then a different clientele that goes to that.
Yeah, I am definitely more on the side of, this year we get a PS5 Pro. This year we get a Nintendo Switch 2. And I don't think Xbox feels pressure to do anything on that hardware front. I don't think it's what they focus on this year. I think what they're going to focus on this year is that delivery cadence. They got a lot of games lined up.
and then working on what Activision has.
Yeah, what are we going to do with Activision? Because the first month of Game Pass, there's no Activision Blizzard there yet, but buddy, they could start to dump Activision Blizzard content on Game Pass. And you don't really need to push hardware if you have a monsoon of content. You can just say, listen, we've got content. You can play it on PC. You can play it on Game Pass. That's a winning, I think that's a winning marketing push for them, especially considering the Call of Duty that's going to land this year is probably going to be pretty popular since they're rebooting Black Ops, and Black Ops is pretty popular with the Call of Duty community, and that's going to be everywhere. That's going to be on PlayStation, and they'll make a ton of money off of PlayStation by doing that. That's revenue. They're not currently earning that revenue if you look back past couple of years because they didn't own COD. So I don't think they need to do the hardware push, and I think whatever they have planned for future hardware, I actually think that the hybrid console is the more likely outcome. I think that makes more sense to say, well, this is a cloud hybrid, and then they can do similar updates and pushes to the Series S to keep the Series S's longevity beyond what it would typically land, because it could start to basically be a cloud box as well. And then that makes sense of why they saturated the market with them more than the X, because it's like, well, we can just update it to basically be a cloud box. And if they've got all that content, I just don't think they feel the need to push really, really strong hardware.
No, over the holiday break, I took my VR headset with me, and I played Game Pass through the cloud in my headset because they just had the Xbox app on the Meta Quest 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
It was phenomenal. I was like, yeah, I wasn't playing any kind of multiplayer game, but I was playing RoboQuest. I was playing like single player games, and I was like, this is fantastic, right? Just to imagine where technology has come, what we had to what we have now, is crazy. And now, obviously, it's not the best gaming experience. If you want the best gaming experience, you sit in front of a television set with the HDMI plugged in, and if you want to play multiplayer with the high speed internet. But if you're just sitting back, or take your Switch with you, or if you take your Meta Quest with you, or if you play it on your mobile phone, like
gaming, to me, I don't care where I game or what console I'm gaming on. I'm going to play where I want to play when I want to play it, and that's the cool part about where gaming's going.
So when you play like RoboQuest, I love RoboQuest. When you play RoboQuest, which everybody should play that game. It's on Game Pass. It's also on Steam. It has an amazing score on Steam. I love promoting RoboQuest. It's such a fun little game. You can
buy it for like $20 or something like that. It's like $25. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're enjoying it, please buy it. Support the devs. But the playing it through your VR headset, is it just like the flat screen emulation thing that it does? And so you're
yeah. So it's an app. So it opens up and you're in like this giant like Xbox room. It looks like you're in space or whatever, and then you can change the screen size to like, it says like small, medium, large, and extra large, and so you can play it on like it looks like a monitor in front of you, just like now, right? And then you can make it bigger where it's like a 55-inch television, then it goes into a bigger one, then it gets to a really big. But the really big one, when you're looking, it all depends what you're playing. If you're playing a game with, you have to look at look at the top corner and stuff. It's not very good. So you shrink it down to like the medium size, large size, and it's actually really good. It's really, the response is no delay, at least when I played it. But I was also on good internet speed through Wi-Fi. So
Sure. Yeah, cloud is very dependent on that. I've heard really good things about xCloud, but then I've heard other people say capacity was bad and I had lag, and it's like, that's the problem with cloud is they don't have control over your grandma's internet. That's not something they have any control over. Which you have the MetaQuest 2 or the 3?
I have 2.
Okay. Did they put Asgard's Wrath 2 on there?
I believe it is.
Okay.
I haven't purchased it yet.
Oh, no. Okay. That's a good game. That's a fun game. I've really enjoyed that. I took a break from it to play some other games, and I'm itching to get back in there. It was really fun. I haven't beaten it yet, and it was some of the best, melee combat I've experienced in VR. It was really responsive, and it ran really, really well. So, well, on that token of we're looking at the year, and I had somebody tell me this morning, Xbox has no games this year, and I'm like, I think their lineup this year is better, for me at least, than it was last year, because I'm looking at Hellblade 2, Towerborn, Immortals 33, and then we got Avowed, and then there could be some other surprises along the way.
Right.
What are the games this year that you're looking? What's your list? Because I went through. I have on my board. I have 30 games. I only went through 25, and then I have 7 remakes and remasters. And this is unbelievable. And this is not everything. I forgot about games because people are bringing up games. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that one. What's some of the top games you're looking at the calendar and saying I have to play that one when it comes out?
So are you looking at, can I say DLCs and also like updates? Because I go back to a lot of games and play, or no, I can't do that. It has to be new games.
No, do that, because I think that's something people need to hear, because I think this year I was wrong. I thought this year was going to be thinner than 2023, and I think it's going to be a lot more full. Definitely.
All right. Well, one of the games I'm looking forward to, we already talked about, is Star Wars Outlaws. That's like my top game, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Another game I'm interested in, more than I thought I would be, because after I played the beta, was the First Descendant. I really, really like the First Descendant, but I'm also a person that likes those looter shooters. I like the way the time I was putting in, and it was rewarding to me. So like I was unlocking, I had like 7 characters unlocked for the amount of time I was playing. And I was like, as long as they keep that XP level that way when the game comes out, I think it's fine. But if they turn it down because it was a beta, so they're trying to get you excited for it. If they make it like super grindy, then it might turn me off a little bit. But the First Descendant was another one, and on the same. I don't know if the game's coming out this year, but there's like a beta coming out supposedly this year, is Transformers Reactivate, which is also another game like the First Descendant. So I'm interested in that. I'm really looking forward to Space Marines 2. I was looking forward to it at the end of this past year, but then it got pushed into this year, and then it got pushed way back into this year into like September. It's like August or September when it comes out. September
the 9th.
Yeah. So
I want to ask you about that one, because I don't believe the gameplay. I think it's fake. I think it's fully rendered footage. I don't think the game's gonna run and look like that when we play it. Now maybe on like a really strong PC. But what are your thoughts on the gameplay? Because it really, we've been doing this a long time, and it's one of those trailers that just looks a little too good to be true. There's just too much going on, and the fidelity's a little too high. Where do you land on that with what we've seen so far with gameplay?
When I look at it, I'm like, is it going to run that smooth with that many people slaughtering on the screen? I was like, that's my biggest thing. It might tune that down a bit when it comes out, because they're probably running it on a really high-end computer when they're showing you that type of stuff. But the reason I'm excited for that game is, one, I like Warhammer. I don't love Warhammer, but I like Warhammer. It reminds me just of I want to fantasize of being the Space Marine, and then I get to slaughter a bunch of guys on the screen too. It's co-op, right? So I get to play it with my brother. That's a game right up our alley that we can just, as I call it, SNS, right? It's shoot the, while you're shooting the, right? So I don't want to curse on your show. So it's shoot the S while shooting the S, right? So it's a game that you're just enjoying while you're sitting there talking and hanging out with your buds and whatnot. So that's what I'm looking forward to. So I get to slaughter a bunch of aliens while I'm a Space Marine. So that's why I'm excited for it. I don't know if it's going to run exactly like it is, but I'm still excited for it.
On that subject, before you keep going through your list, one of the ones on my list is Helldivers 2, and I said the same thing. Just a good knock-around co-op game where I'm just going to shoot aliens. Is Helldivers 2 a game where you're like, oh man, I've got to get a PlayStation, or I've got to play that. That looks like a fun game, because my big question about it is, what's the ongoing content going to look like? Because it looks like a fun game, but fun games aren't not necessarily fun 6 months later. So what do you think of that one?
Right. So I'm playing Starship Troopers right now on PC. I put in about, I want to say like 40 or 50 hours into it, and I like it, but it's really small content as far, and that's an early access, right? And we're in beta right now, so it's not fully fledged out for console. But what that type of game is, and that's exciting for me, because it's 16 player co-op, and you get to do all these different missions, or you can go on a smaller mission and it's just 4-player team and you're going around. That's what I feel like Helldivers is going to be. I think Helldivers is also a smaller title, because it's only like what, $40, $50.
Yeah, it's $40. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not going to be that. I don't expect a $40 game like that going to have this like huge content right when the game comes out. I think there'll be enough there that if you play it a couple hours, maybe a weekend, a couple hours a week or whatever, it'll be fine. But if you die hard into that game, it's going to get really repetitive, really boring, really fast. And then you have to wait for the live service to kick in, right? The battle pass or whatever else. So I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's exactly going to be just like Starship Trooper type of game, where it's fun. You just shoot some stuff, level up your character, get some cool gear. But then if it's a good loop, you're gonna want more faster. And then what's that content cadence that's gonna be when they bring it out?
Sure, and I didn't mean to make it sound like it's PlayStation only. It is coming to Steam, so there's no minimum. There's no minimum requirements on Steam just yet. I just checked, but I think that points to it being one of the live service games from PlayStation, because they said their live service games were going to be multi-plat, and I think by their nature, it's like, well, we need to be on both places so people can play it. So I think for $40, even if people play it and after a month or two they're like, yeah, I'm kind of burned out, I still think that's a great value. I mean, that's a very low entrance cost to play a game, for tons of hours with your buddies. So keep going. I'm curious, what other games you got on your list there?
Let's see. I got Banisher looks interesting. Yeah, I didn't know much about it. I call it the Scottish Witcher. You know what I mean? Like that's what it looked like. But I actually think the story is pretty interesting with the. I don't know if it's his lover, or they're in love with each other, but at the same time, like one's a ghost, one's in the realm, and you have to work together, and you get to swap in between while you're fighting. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought it was interesting. I like that type of storytelling. I know it's like a movie game, right? That's what basically everyone says. It's like gonna have a lot of cutscenes and whatnot, but I'm interested in that. I'm actually interested in the Plucky Squire. Now, the Plucky Squire, I don't know if I'm gonna get it for the Switch or if I'm gonna get it for the like Xbox, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that might be a good game to get on the Switch. So
yeah, I had that on my top 25 because Devolver's got great stuff, and the Plucky Squire looks really, really cool, really creative. Hopping in and out of books, different styles, different art styles, different gameplay. I was like, this one looks fun, and I generally just don't get anything on the Switch unless I have to. Like that's just been kind of my attitude. It's like if it's a first party, for sure. Right. But after that, it's like, no, I'm not going to buy anything on the Switch unless I have to, because if it's a third party game, I'd much rather play it on my Xbox or my PlayStation.
Yeah, another one that I know you're not a big fan of, or you're a fan of it, but you're a little skeptic of it, is Avowed, right? Avowed, I'm interested in, but at the same time, I don't expect a lot from Avowed. I didn't expect a lot from Outer Worlds. I was very, very surprised by Outer Worlds when it came out. So we talked about this 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, when Avowed looked completely different in the first trailer compared to the second trailer. It definitely looks like they downgraded some stuff, but I'm not looking into that game to like be groundbreaking in any way, shape, or form. I'm looking at that as just another fantasy game. Basically, I'm looking at it as Oblivion's Obsidian's, not Oblivion. Obsidian's like Skyrim. You know what I mean? Like their chance, and Obsidian makes good games, man. I liked all their games that they've come out with, so they've never pushed me wrong in any way, shape, or form with the games they've created. So, I mean, everyone looks at it and says it might be like a Redfall, but Obsidian has yet to disappoint me with any of the games they've created. So why would I think that this is going to be a bad game until it is?
Yeah. I've gotten pushback on that because I've said there's red flags with Avowed, and I will happily be proven wrong on that because we've seen games like Forza Motorsport fall well below graphical fidelity of what was originally shown. We've seen features not there in Forza Motorsport. And then we saw the same thing happen with Redfall. Like, gameplay looked weird. There was something wrong. Something was off. And then doesn't even have a performance mode when it releases. And I just look at Avowed and I'm like, I really hope these are just bad coincidences, and that they voluntarily thought, let's change the art style, and they voluntarily thought, let's not do co-op. I hope that that's true. Because everybody's telling me like, oh, Obsidian doesn't miss. It's like, for months I was told Arcane doesn't miss, and for months I was shown montages, and the defense force for Redfall was out there, and all that withered to nothing as soon as Redfall came out. So it's like, I'm being concerned and seeing red flags. I that's not hate. It's like I'm just trying to set expectations, because I'm seeing people hype Avowed like it's the second coming. It's like, stop doing that. Like, every game can't be the second coming. Like, it can just be a good game. It can just be like let's kind of wait and see. Because if that game's coming out soon, because people are like, oh, it's coming out first quarter, it's coming out second quarter, hopefully there's a developer direct this month and we get an extensive look. We don't have any extensive looks at that game. It's coming this year, and we have a highly edited trailer that looks very different than the original trailer. So that, to me, is like okay, prove me wrong, prove my concerns wrong, because Xbox has a lot of games coming out this year, and we have no dates yet. And so I'm looking at that developer direct to say, extensive gameplay, and release dates.
That I put Avowed and Obsidian into the same kind of ballpark as Rocksteady with Suicide Squads, right? Like Suicide Squads is another game I'm excited for, right? And Rocksteady has never disappointed me with their storytelling. And I know a lot of people are going into Suicide Squads saying it's going to be crap because it's going to be like Marvel's Avengers, but I'm going in, my expectations is not like it. I'm not going into that game as a looter shooter. I'm going into that game as Rocksteady telling me that story against killing the Justice League. And then the icing on the cake is if it is a good looter shooter, fantastic. And then the same was like Helldivers, the content. What's the cadence of the content that they're going to be coming out with? And that could make or break the game in the long run. But I'm going to enjoy the story that Rocksteady is telling. So I like Obsidian. I think Obsidian tells good stories as well. So even if the game comes out and it's not as visually stunning or whatnot, as long as they can tell a good story with Avowed, I think I'll be okay with that. I'm okay with Suicide Squads if the looter shooter aspect is absolutely garbage, but yet the story is still fantastic.
Yeah, I'm hoping that some of the weirdness and oddities in the trailer is just because they're using like an old build, because there are sections of the trailer of Avowed that looks really good, like the NPC that looks kind of like a fish person. Like, he looks great, and some of the scenery and some of the sections look awesome. But then they show some of that gameplay, and I'm like, that's rough. Like, there's something wrong here. And again, a lot of the times they show early slices, but that game is allegedly close to coming out. Why are you using such rough footage? Shouldn't you have better footage to show? But again, that trailer was in the middle of 2023, and then they went quiet. So I'm willing to say, okay, maybe that Avowed trailer was built pretty early in 2023 and a bunch has changed. So I agree. Obsidian has a good track record. I'm hoping that that's one of the, because the 4 from them that I'm looking forward to, one of them is Avowed. And I'm like, please don't be another Redfall, you know?
One of my things, my motto this year in 2024 is my expectations. I'm not lowering my standards in any way, but I'm trying not to have super high expectations for a lot of things. I'm just trying to, because if I have high expectations, I'm going to be more frustrated. So, less expectations, less frustration, right? So I'm not going to try to push what I think the game should have or what I think it should be. I'm going to take the game for the games what they are and then base them off of what they're selling us, right?
Right. Like I really mean this, and I really want to say this to people. It's like, instead of taking a chunk out of me and calling me names or calling me a hater because I express concern about Avowed, why not hold the people accountable that hyped up Redfall and just basically told you things that weren't true? Like, I feel like that's a greater offense to basically be a PR mouthpiece and to promote a game that was truly bad. And to not be honest about it and to mislead people, and then like that should be more upsetting to you than me saying, I don't know, this game might end up being disappointing. Like, one is a volitional choice to mislead the public. The other is just like, I don't know, this thing could be pretty disappointing. There's a pattern here, and this thing could fall flat. It's like, wouldn't you rather somebody say that and then be like, yo, I was wrong, this game's hot, instead of the opposite? It's like, where's the accountability? Where are the standards here? Coming at me, you're coming at the wrong person. I think people need to start holding folks accountable for basically being a marketing piece for these games. I would much rather express concern and be wrong. Like you're saying, like, don't hype these games up. I saw people that were like, dude, quit doing this to Hellblade 2. They're like, Hellblade 2, could be Xbox's savior. No, it's just another video game.
Coming of Christ, right? Second coming of Christ, here it comes. Yeah. It's like, what? It's
just another game, dude. Don't do that to Ninja Theory. Don't put that bad juju on my boys at Ninja Theory. Don't do that. So, all right, what other games you got on there?
We got 33 Immortals. I am interested in it. I'm not loving it, but it's an interesting concept. So obviously, and then it's on Game Pass, so I don't really have to worry about like paying full price for it or anything like that. Towerborn's another one that I think could be an interesting game. Then Pacific Drive, which I like. My people that come to my stream know I like the car type of games. Man.
You do.
I love my ATS, Euro Truck Simulator, Snow Runners. I like those games.
Yeah.
This is a game where you're just a car. You're in a car the entire time, and you're like leveling up your station wagon and doing a bunch of stuff. I'm like, this seems interesting, and I like companies that like to take chances and stuff. It's different. It's not the same first-person shooter and same stuff. This is a car that you're leveling up and stuff. So I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot.
what was the other one? It was it reminds me of No Man's Sky. It's Lightyear Frontier.
Oh, Lightyear Frontier.
Yeah, that's it. What it is. Okay. Yeah, that's a game that I would play with my son. He likes like the farm simulator type games and Minecraft, and it feels like it's sort of like No Man's Sky meets Minecraft type of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was on my list. That was supposed to be last year. They're now slated for March of this year. Lightyear Frontier. That's an Xbox exclusive. It's also on PC. So I think that's a win. That's another win for Xbox, because I think it's a charming little title, perfect for Xbox. I want to ask you though, because you mentioned 33 Immortals and Towerborn. That's also on my list. You know, I'm constantly told that I'm an Xbox hater. It's like so many games on my top 25 are Xbox games. Towerborn, I'm thinking that's their shadow drop or their surprise drop or, something. I think that's a developer direct. They're either shadow dropping Towerborn or saying like, oh, you can play it in a week. I think that game is perfect for that. Like 4 players, kick off the year with something to play with buds, get people on Game Pass.
I didn't even think about Towerborn. When we were talking, I talked on my podcast yesterday. I was like, what could be the shadow drop? But I didn't know it was coming out with a beta. I was like, Final Fantasy 14 could be a shadow drop on Xbox real soon, but it's a beta coming out supposedly within the next 2 weeks or so, end of January or beginning of February. So that was my pick for the shadow drop, that leak of the Xbox Direct, because yes, it's not a new game, but it's a new game for Xbox because it's never been on Xbox before. So I was like, that'd be interesting if that was the shadow drop. But I didn't even think about Towerborn, and I think you might be right. I think it might be Towerborn that comes out as a shadow drop.
There's rumors that it's going to be a game called Kiln that we know
That's from the makers of what was that company's name? Double Fine, right? Double Fine.
Yeah, it's from Double Fine, and it's a multiplayer team-based brawler. And we know very little about it. So there's rumors that could be one of the surprise drops. There's also an insider that said there won't be a shadow drop at the developer direct. It'll be sort of hey, this is coming out in a week. And I think they might be experimenting with that. May drive more people to Game Pass, like, hey, sign up for Game Pass now. This is coming in a week. And then they spend that week being like, wow, look at all the games on Game Pass. This is fantastic. They might be experimenting with a little bit of a different strategy. That, to me, is still a shadow drop. It's like that thing's coming out in a week. I love when they did that with God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, that free DLC. That's just awesome to be like, yep, you can play it in a week. So, I think it's between Towerborn and Kiln. What was the game you said you think they might drop on Shadow Drop?
I said it might be Final Fantasy 14, the online.
Oh, right. Because that could be, that would be a big, because everybody's been waiting for that one. So we'll see. But
which could be that beta that's supposed to come, and they just, maybe a lot of people don't know. I didn't know about it, so maybe not a lot of people don't know about it, and then all of a sudden they tell everybody, hey, Final Fantasy beta's coming out. Boom, here it is.
That'd be a strong start for the year for Xbox for sure.
Another one that I don't think you would pick. I don't know if you played the other games because you're a safe to work channel, but South Park Snow Day is one of the games I'm looking forward to. So that's one. City Skylines 2, which was supposed to come out last year. It was supposed to come out on Game Pass, but it had major issues on PC. They postponed the console version. That's supposed to come out sometime this year. So I'm looking forward to City Skylines 2. This one I know is not on your list. DC Universe Online upgrade that's supposed to happen.
Okay.
It was supposed to be in the winter, so we're in winter. It was supposed to be either late 2023, early 2024. DC Universe Online is doing a major upgrade for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, supposedly.
Okay.
So I'm interested to see what they do visually and what they do. Maybe I'll jump back into that game. I'm looking forward to the Starfield DLC that comes out this year. I like that game, even though nobody else does, but I do like Starfield.
Have you seen the stat that Starfield has more play hours than Baldur's Gate 3? That's like this huge thing I'm seeing everywhere. I'm like, okay, come on.
That sounds like, look, I like Starfield, but
how's that possible?
That sounds like a fanboy looking up stats and putting something together and just showing stuff.
But I'm curious how that's possible, because first and foremost, the player base numbers plummeted on Steam. All right, it held good numbers on Xbox. I'll give you that. It did. But Xbox is so much smaller than Steam and PlayStation. Like Baldur's Gate is on PlayStation, it's on Steam, and then there was those guys You see these guys, their playtime in Xbox games were going up because of quick resume. It like leaves the game running. And I'm like,
Wow, that happened to me with Skull and Bones. So it was a 6-hour Skull and Bones beta.
Yeah.
And I played for 2 hours and I quit the Xbox. I shut up my Xbox off, right? But it was quick resumed in the background. So when I came back to turn on to play my Xbox again, to play the other 4 hours of Skull and Bones for the beta, it said I was out of time. I was like, what do you mean I'm out of time? I was like, I didn't even play it.
That's all the proof I need. That's why Starfield is got more hours in Baldur's Gate 3. There ain't no way Baldur's Gate 3 hit almost 1 million concurrent players its second weekend. There's no conceivable way that Starfield legitimately has more playtime than BG3. Not even a chance. It's that quick resume nonsense. They're basically logging hours in games and you're not even in the game. You're not playing.
Well, I'll be, I don't want to bring it up on here, but in our podcast last night, if you get a chance, Lono, this weekend, I want you to watch the last hour of GXG, right?
Okay.
It was a member section that I did, but you could watch it. I go over the achievement list in Starfield and show you the Steam chart achievement list and the Xbox achievement list and how many people didn't finish getting into the ship. You know what, the first mission, the tutorial, where you get into the ship, when you meet Barrett for the first time, you get in the ship and you go into space and get the achievement, go into space, right? Yeah. I go off on how many people didn't even get to that point in the game. Okay.
Yeah, but it has more hours than Baldur's Gate 3, sure.
And then there's another achievement where to get to level 5, which you can literally do in like, I don't know, an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And the percentage of people that didn't get to level 5 is astonishing. So when you get a chance, go check that out.
I hate to use this word, but I'm going to use this word. It just feels like propaganda at this point. It's like just admit that this game ain't it, okay? There's no conspiracy on the Steam score. The Steam score just continues to go down. No one is that committed to bringing that game score down. It's just not it. It's not the game. It's not very good. It's, for Bethesda fans especially, it's like, what is this? This is so well below what we were hoping for. And to run around and be like, yeah, man, it's got more hours than Baldur's Gate 3. Get the heck out of here with this falsehood. It isn't true. It's some fake, phony number because of quick resume. I'm gonna stand on that. I don't care. I don't care if I get hate for it. I do not care. It's not. There's no way that number's legitimate.
Starfield. I love Starfield. And it's a small group of people that actually are enjoying it. But hey, you enjoy what you enjoy, and everyone else enjoy what they want to enjoy.
I don't care if people enjoy it. I care about falsehood and misrepresentation. Like that's why
I don't look at that stuff.
Right, exactly. Like you're not out here being like, dude, Starfield's great, man. Look at the play hours. You're like, I just am having fun. Like I know you're being genuine when you say that. Like it's like I'm interacting with genuine people. They're like, I'm just having a good time.
My biggest problem with Starfield is in the main story, you go to get the artifacts, right? And you go fly, and you grab those little things, you go back and forth, and then you go into the big circle. I was like, this is the most checked in, like throw into the game nonsense. 25. You have to do this 25 times, right? There's 25 different powers. Okay,
right,
so you got to fly around like 6 times to make the thing, and then they get the thing, and then you get the artifact, and you have to do that 25 times. And then if you do Game Plus, you got to do another 25 times. And if you do all 10 Game Pluses, you got to do it 250 times because that's what you're doing, right? And I'm like, why didn't you put a boss fight? Why didn't you do anything of the sites? Like I go through the portal and then I fight a boss. And then you use the power. Like Sarge is like, why don't you just use the power? And then it teaches you how to use that power against that boss. I was like, that would have been actual development time that they didn't actually do. That's my biggest pet peeve with Starfield is the main story stuff where you're flying around is just nonsense. But I digress. Let me go into.
Hang on 1 second, because we're gonna leave Starfield alone. I know people are like, you got to hit on Starfield. No, this could be a good year for Starfield. Because they're doing updates every 6 weeks.
Starfield's not going anywhere.
And they're doing this DLC. So the people that act like the game's flawless and the game is the second coming and the game got review bombed and the game is there's a bias. Listen to me. You're not good for the game. You're bad for a game when you won't hold it to improvement and betterment. And I'm sitting here saying, listen, every 6 weeks, put this game on a redemption arc. Do it. Have a 2.0 moment. Do it. You think Cyberpunk would be where it is today if everyone acted like it was great when it came out? You think No Man's Sky would be where it is today? Everybody acted and lied and propagandized the public and was like, No Man's Sky is amazing. Look at the play hours. No. Games get better. Games improve when you hold them accountable. So I'm telling people, you got to get off this weird wavelength of defending Starfield. I believe that game could become something truly special. It just isn't. It just isn't there right now. So, right.
Real quick, Dave in chat reminded me for the Skull and Bones thing to get around that where I lost my beta.
Oh yeah,
I just uninstalled the game and then reinstalled it, and then I had my 6 hours back. So
perfect. There you go. What a hack! That's a great hack that you pulled off there.
So another one that I'm interested in is Final Fantasy 14, because it is coming to Xbox. I never played it, so I'm interested in playing that. Black Myth Wukong is another one that I'm not even that type of like Souls-like fan.
Sure.
But that game, for some reason, just it tingles me. I get this sensation. I'm like, man, that looks really good. So I might buy that game and play it for like 5 hours and be done with it. But those 5 hours I'll probably enjoy.
Yeah, that's one on my list. Black Myth looks
Nightingale.
awesome.
Nightingale is another one I'm interested in.
Yes.
And Dragon Dogma 2. I'm interested, but I don't know if I'll pull the trigger. Only because I didn't play Dragon Dogma 1. And right now it's on sale for like $3.49, right? And that's not the problem, right? Like I'll probably pick it up for $3.49, but the problem is, am I going to have time to put 50 hours into that game to really give it a go? Because when I play games, I go hard in them, right? I go hard in the paint when I play games. I don't like to play a game for like one day and then put it down for 6 months. I put in 50, 60 hours, and I don't know if I can do that with Suicide Squad coming out at the end of this month. So,
well, and the pushback on Kill the Justice League is really, really interesting because people have already kind of written that game off. They're like, because I have it on my top 25. I'm like, yes. I was like, I think it's gonna be fun. Like, I think it looks like a fun game. Looks like a promising game. And this idea that they should have built this game or they should have built that game. I understand the frustration, but I want to let games stand on their own. I want to let a game be like, this is what we wanted to build, and let us take a crack at this. What do you think about this live service debate? It's related to Justice League because there's this idea that there's an analyst saying live service games aren't going to have their dominance anymore. It's going to slow down, and I've continued to say that even PlayStation's going to have to rethink their format. I don't think you can just do all these live service games where, we got to keep the player funnel full or the game's a failure. I think that's a fool's errand. There's only so many live service games that can keep a funnel full. I'm like, it's got to be like a content-driven model, and I think they should focus more on co-op instead of this Battle Royale, this MMO, this everyone's playing.
Constantly being in there, do your checklist, do your chores for the day.
Exactly. What are your thoughts on this? Because there's a lot of animosity to live service, but there's a big push to it as well. Like these companies want that money, they want that ongoing revenue. Where do you think we're headed with that?
I personally like if live service went the way of like what the best way I can describe it is what like Borderlands 2 did with their DLCs, right? Borderlands 2, you played the main campaign. You beat it. Maybe you made another character. You went through it and you did it again. And then you waited. And then all of a sudden DLC came out and you expanded the story and they added more stuff to the game. Now, if you take that method and do it with the live service game, yes, you paid for that DLC for Borderlands. But if live service, instead of constantly coming back and doing the exact same thing every single day, and then a DLC comes in, right? Then like you play the game, you stop playing the game, you go play other games. And then when they come up with an update, you come back to that game and then you play the update for that game, right? I feel like that's more convenient for respecting the player's time, because I don't like games that, like for instance, right now the finals, they say people are saying that the battle pass is way too long. It's like over 100 hours. And some people are like, oh, it's just perfect. That's just fine. But it's like, is it though? Like a lot of people, like, again, you as the player are thinking of yourself going, well, I have time, so it's perfect for me. But the developer has to look at it and go, well, what's the masses? How many people are finishing this battle pass? How many people are finishing this content super fast? And the problem is, it's not about keeping you. Let me rewind. The problem is the currency is your time, right? The more that you're spending in their game, you're less likely to go play another game, and then they can show you the microtransactions or the storefront or whatever they're trying to sell you, right? So the online, the way it's going, it's going to get oversaturated. And I know people are going to put in the chat or text me later, well, what's your thoughts on this? Like, it's going to be oversaturated. And instead of having 1 million people, like back in the day, play this one game, you're going to have 250 million people playing that game, and that the other 750 million people are going to be playing a different game because they don't want to stay in that one game constantly, right? They want to go over to the other games and kind of rotate their thing, right? This is what's happening with Destiny right now, right? Destiny still has a good player base, but people don't want to just keep doing the same old thing. They're like, oh, I just realized there's other games out there. Let me go play some other games. This is a lot of, it feels like an MMO. It almost feels like an MMO with these live service games.
Yeah. Boycott activity with a $5 super chat says Towers of Agasba is my number one. It's a mix of Shadow of the Colossus and Dark Cloud with multiplayer. It does look good. It does look good. That one was not on my list, but that one looks really fun. On this subject, like what you're talking about, I agree, because I wonder if the secret sauce is so many people will take a break from Fortnite or Call of Duty or Apex or Final Fantasy 14 or World of Warcraft or whatever it is. There's a game that's got its hooks in them, and they'll take a break from it to play something else for a little bit. And that's the key, is being like, we can be that game that you play for a little bit. You come and you either buy the DLC or you buy whatever it is, this pack or something or other, and then you can play it with your buds, and then you're good to leave. Go ahead. If Helldivers 2 structures itself in that way, I think that's the future of live service. It is an ongoing content model. People are like, well, isn't that just the DLC model of old? Not quite. Because the DLC model of old was like, here's a single player game and here's some more story beats, and then that was kind of the end of it. I'm talking about a commitment to, there's more content coming and you're going to want to come back, not just by yourself, but maybe with some other people. And this is an ongoing game. Not a game that has some epilogue content, but a game that's ongoing. I think it's just a different feel when you know, oh, in 3 months, Helldivers is going to drop some new planets, weapons, and missions. Cool, man. I'm going to go play some other stuff. We had fun with Helldivers for a little bit, but we're going to go play some other stuff. We're going to come back. I think the concern there is you'll maybe see diminishing returns, and companies don't like that. If a year from now Helldivers 2 is getting a significant less amount of people to come back, that would be the concern, is can you get players to fold into this mindset of, I'm cool to come back in 3 months, because, man, once a game's out of sight, out of mind for a lot of these guys, they're never coming back. They're never even going to think about the game ever again.
Well, the developer's job is to, and my motto is, make a game, sell that game, right? Once they sell that game, they make their money. And now with these live service games, they have to now make a game and then take the game out, make the content, sell the content, right? And if the content is free, then they need to sell it and go. The selling point now is it's fun factor. If it's a fun game to play, I'm going to play your game more than I'm going to play that other game. And if I'm playing your game because I'm enjoying it, I might buy a battle pass. I might buy the microtransaction skin. I might buy your DLC, whatever it is, right? Yeah. Elder Scrolls Online, free to play, right? Or it's on Game Pass, whatever. Is it on PlayStation Plus 2? I think it's on PlayStation Plus 2. And they make their money on the DLCs, and they make their money on, oh, you have this much storage. But if you really want more storage, then you pay $15 a month, and then you get that storage for that MMO, right? That's how they keep people coming back. So if you like something, you're going to keep playing it. And if you keep playing it, you don't want to get bored. So they have to keep making more content. This is the end-old cycle of why MMOs are so popular, because they constantly update the game, right? They give you a DLC once a year, whatever it is, and then they constantly bringing in events, Christmas event, Halloween event, Valentine's event, whatever it is, right? The anniversary, the year celebration, and they just keep people coming back. DC Universe Online, like I said, it's been around for 12 years, okay? It doesn't have millions and millions of people playing it, but it has the core group that's constantly coming back, constantly doing the next chapter in the story or whatever it is, and it's successful. You don't need to have all the people. You just need to have a core group of people that rotating through the door. If it's 30,000 people this month and it's a different 30,000 people next month, and then that other 30,000 that played the first month come back the third month, whatever. They just need to have those people keep making the content, keep coming in. And the more and more people that make these live service games, though, that pool's going to get thinner and thinner and thinner, especially on console, right? Because if you think about it, between the Switch, between the PlayStation, and between the Microsoft, okay, what is there, 350 million people that play on console? So they're all fighting for those 350 people, or 350,000, or I'm sorry, 350 million people that are trying to jockey to play whatever live service game that you're playing or whatever, you know? So that's a small pool compared to the billions of people that are playing video games between mobile phones and PC and whatever else. So what are you going to do? Every time someone comes out with a new live service game, it's one more that they get tossed in the pile. Hey, play ours instead of playing this one. Play our first-person shooter instead of playing that first-person shooter. Play this live service game instead of playing that live service game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's why, if you can just navigate the calendar well, kind of like what you were saying, like a lot of people are looking at this year and probably rethinking release dates. Like March 22nd, okay? Rise of the Ronin, Dragon's Dogma 2, and Princess Peach Showtime. They all come out that day, all three. Now, I know Princess Peach is the odd one out there, but still, that's a big Nintendo IP. That's a big Nintendo.
I bet you it outsells the other ones.
Probably.
I bet you it outsells the other ones.
I don't know. Dragon's Dogma 2 is pretty popular. You're probably right, though, because Nintendo just has such insane saturation. Like 130 million people are going to have the opportunity to get a Princess Peach game, so we'll see.
How many people played Dogma 1? Hold on a second, let me see. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. The point is that that's one day. That is a single day that has that many games launching, and the first quarter is crazy. We got multiple games this month coming out, and then February has multiple games, then March has multiple games. Just the first quarter of this year alone feels like I'm immediately going to fall behind. I'm not going to be able to play or complete every game. Just not going to happen. Like my backlog last year, my top 10 games, I just split it in half. It's like, well, here's 5 games that I completed, and here's 5 games I would like to complete. I can't get to them all. I can't complete them all. Like, and obviously I don't stream like I used to. So my streaming schedule really makes that hard because I'm mostly planning, sketching, writing, and recording, the next day's content. So I'm not, getting to block out 4 or 5 hours a day, to play these games. I mean, what do you think for your own experience this year? Like, are you anticipating that being an issue? Like, there's just going to be a big backlog of titles you don't get to, or are you gonna make sure you diligently complete all these games that are coming out?
No, I'm starting off with Suicide Squads, and if Suicide Squads takes me into and it overlaps the next game that comes out, then I'll keep playing that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a content creator that's like, oh, this is the latest greatest game, I have to play this and get content for it. I play games that I like, and if I'm enjoying that game, I'm gonna stick with that game until I stop enjoying it, and move on to something else. So if Final Fantasy comes out in the beta, I'm going to play that, but it's coming out, if it does have a beta, it's coming out right as Suicide Squad's coming out, so I'm not going to play the Final Fantasy 14 right now. I'll play Suicide Squads, and then if Nightingale comes out and I'm still enjoying Suicide Squads, then Nightingale's taking a back seat for a couple more weeks or whatever it is until I have time, and then I'm even going back playing games. I started playing Sea of Thieves again with my son because of the Safer Seas, which is phenomenal. It's so much better, at least playing with my son. Regardless of the XP diminish and the coins diminish, but it's still fun to play without knowing I'm going to lose everything with my son now. Yeah,
I wanted to play that with my wife, but knowing how it's like a tutorial, I think it makes sense in your context for that to be a good time. But it's like, man, can you just let me?
Right, there's always something. Like, let me just play. Can I just have the regular version of the game and just enjoy it PvE? Can
let me play the freaking game, bro. Just let me play your game. I don't want all this other stuff going on. It'd be like, it's a ruined game if you do that. Well, fine. I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna have that happen to me, dude. I got an hour or two a night, and that's it. And I'm not burning that on some dude that just won't stop playing Sea of Thieves because he loves to hunt people every night. No, sorry, bro. I got better things to do with my time than that. I'll build a Lego set and watch Twilight Zone. I don't need to do that, you know?
I find it funny if you're playing a racing game, and just imagine it's the same concept, right? It's a racing game, right? So you're supposed to go forward and you're supposed to go around the track and do things, but you decide you want to have fun and go backwards on the track, and they're like, no, you can't do that. That's not what the game is. And you're just like, let me play the game how I want to play. Like, let me just play the game, right?
Well, I get where people come from. It's like when someone says, hey, can you add easy mode to a Souls game? And I'm like, well, that would completely change the fabric and the identity of the game. And a lot of people argue the same thing with Sea of Thieves. They're like, it's in the core of the game. It's in the identity of the game. And I'm like, that's fine. I just don't play then. And and that's just the attitude I think you have to take sometimes with games. You're like, this game's just not for me. It's I would play Safer Seas. I would play Safer Seas with my wife if it wasn't so diminished. It's basically a tutorial. So it's like, this is kind of pointless. But it's like, it's way too easy in a game like that to put in an hour and a half or 2 hours. Be like, all right, it's almost time to shut down and end our night and kind of go to bed. And one dude, one couple of guys can just completely ruin your night. They'll just come along and sink you. And you're like, well, we now accomplished nothing.
Well, they kind of fixed that with the plunder pass, because as you dig up stuff now, you're getting XP towards your plunder pass, which then unlocks gold for you. So if you lose all your gold on your ship, you're still getting stuff. But yes, 100%. The frustration of that is there's some nights I back in the past, I would get on and play for 2 hours and turn all my stuff in. It feels so good. Then you play 2 hours, and right before you get there, even the Kraken, even the PvE content will come up and grab your ship and then sink you, and you're like, I have nothing to show for what I did tonight. And that's just like infuriating. Yeah.
Yeah, that to me is, there's a mentality block for me there. Like, some people, that's the thrill of it. The threat of losing it all is the thrill of it. And I understand that because I love Returnal, one of my favorite games, and it wouldn't feel the same if I was about to go fight a boss and I knew, well, if I die, I can just try again. I have a checkpoint. It just feels different knowing if I die, I'm going all the way back to the beginning. It's it's a rogue. Right. So I get it. I understand that the cocktail of emotion is specially tuned, but I'm like, bro, I have no interest in that. Like, it's just not my palette of game sessions. And if I had longer windows of time to play, I might think differently. It's like, yeah, well, when I can put in 4 or 5 hours and 45 minutes to an hour kind of gets wasted, I think that's a little bit easier to take. It's still infuriating because you're like, well, just lost all that progress. And you can make it back, though. You could make some of that back, I think, by having a little bit more playtime. So with limited playtime, I'm right now kind of looking for something to play between now and when The Last of Us Remastered comes out. But next week on the 11th, that's on the 19th. Okay. The 11th of next week, though, I believe I'm going to be able to get into the Prince of Persia game, and I think that game looks really fun. That's kind of kicking off the year for me.
I'm not excited about it. I mean, it looks good. I'm just not my cup of tea.
Well, the nature of what we do every Friday, guys, is make sure you smash that like button. YouTube's been a little squirrely with likes. Let's set our sights on hitting 200 likes on this video. If you guys want to give some members, that'd be a great way to end the week. But we're not done yet. For those of you that have upgraded to VIP or higher, you can come with us to a weekly segment we do that's a little unfiltered. It's me, Mike. It's my producer. But then tonight is for everyone at a member tier or higher. So all gifteds, if you want to go to the member tab and upgrade, it's only $1. But then you're paying for your own membership, and you do get to come to that extra content. And Friday nights, I hang out with my wife. We play some games and talk, and it is a blast. So make sure and do all that if you're wanting to take part in the extra content today. If not, if you got a gifted membership, that's great. You can take part in daily Q&A sessions throughout the week that is only for the gifted members as well as all other members as well. So Mike, before we kind of transition here, you guys can click his name in the description below, and if he talks in chat, some browsers you can click on his name, some you can't, so you might have to use the description. Let's let the people know what kind of content you're working on right now and where they can find you.
I'm trying a couple different things with uploads. So I'm doing different topics from breakouts that I do during the morning. You can watch me 10 o'clock in the morning till noon Eastern, interact with chat back and forth. Chat's part of the stream 100%. And then we do gameplay streams Monday through Wednesday evenings from 8 p.m. to midnight. And then I also do a podcast Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, called Generation X Gaming. We just started our 10th season. So,
all right. I'm going to have to do this one as a look back at the week, and we're gonna go Reforge VIP and up. I didn't have this set up just yet. Fridays are really tough because I've got like a cramped morning, and I'm trying to get this scheduled now, and I can't see anything because we're in this scene. So I'm going to have to close out of that. I can't see anything. Dark Taco, welcome back as a VIP. I have to schedule on my main computer. I always forget. I'm like half screened right now with Mike on my streaming rig. I'm sorry, on my gaming rig. So let me get this set up for you guys that are VIPs or higher. And this is a once a week segment we do. This is the only thing you miss out on if you are not VIP or higher. All you really need to do is be at that $6 membership. A look back at the week is what we'll call this. All you got to do is be at that $6 membership or higher, and you can take part in basically all of the extra content that we do. But this is just a fun segment that we like to do on Fridays for a little bit. It's not super long, but it is a good time, and we'll do members, and then we'll do VIP or higher, and we'll schedule that right now. And I'm going to redirect you guys as well. I'll put a link in the chat if you're listening to the audio version of this. If you're listening elsewhere, we appreciate you guys consuming the content. If you're listening over the weekend, I know a lot of you guys consume it. Welcome back to Dark Taco as a VIP. We need 30 more likes on the video. I guarantee you not everybody's pressed that like button, guys. Make sure and minimize the chat. You lurkers especially, you guys, you're in your second stream of the day. Sometimes I think you forget. You're like, oops, I thought I was still in the first stream. No, this is our second stream today. If you missed this morning's stream and you can't come to VIP, go check out that first stream. It's my top 25 games coming in the coming year. And then let me provide you guys with the link to the new stream. And I already gifted the 10 members that I owe as well. So I'm all paid up, and we're going to get out of here. Let me provide you guys with the link. And you can click that link in chat, and then you can ride the redirect as well. Thanks so much for being a VIP or higher. This is that weekly unfiltered segment that we do with you guys, and we appreciate you being at those upper tiers. And also, anybody that's at a member or higher gets to come to all the exclusive content now Monday through Friday as well as Friday night. So we hope to see a bunch of you tonight for Friday night with Madam. Those of you that were watching the Reforge Recap, we talked about Star Wars Outlaws release date, the Nintendo Switch 2, the PS5 Pro, and all of the games we're looking forward to in 2024, and we did do that top 25 games as well. So go make sure and check that out. Leave a comment. Let me know the top games you're looking forward to. I'm going to end that stream and bring everybody over from